Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Today I wanted to talk to you about emergency supplies. What are the most important supplies that everyone should have? You can start off with looking at what FEMA says. Not necessarily that we want to come under the control of FEMA, but they're at least giving you a heads up, and I think there's some very important information. Even though it is unlikely that an emergency would cut off your food supply for 2 weeks, consider maintaining a supply that will last that long. You may not need to go out and buy foods to prepare an emergency food supply. You can use the canned goods, dry mixes, and other staples on your cupboard shelves. Be sure to check expiration dates and follow the practice of first in, first out. You need to read between the lines. FEMA is telling you you need a 2-week supply, and you may not be able to go out and buy food, so that you better already have a 2-week supply on hand. If you don't already have a 2-week supply on hand, realize that you are being warned that you should have it. FEMA also says when food supplies are low. If activity is reduced, healthy people can survive on half their usual food intake for an extended period and without any food for many days. Food, unlike water, may be rationed safely except for children and pregnant women. If you look at the lockdowns that are currently going on in places like Shanghai, China, you realize that yes, activity is reduced because people are being locked in their homes. And people can survive on half or without any food for many days. Is that the life that you want to live for yourself and your family? Half your food or without any food for many days? What about emergency water supplies? Having an ample supply of clean water is a top priority in an emergency. A normally active person needs to drink at least 2 quarts or half a gallon of water each day. People in hot environments, children, nursing mothers, and ill people will require even more. You will also need water for food preparation and hygiene. Store at least 1 gallon per person per day. Consider storing at least a 2-week supply of water for each member of your family. If you are unable to store this quantity, store as much water as you can. If supplies run low, never ration water. Drink the amount you need today and try to find more tomorrow. You can minimize the amount of water your body needs by reducing activity and staying cool. And that has always been something that all preppers have said. Have a minimum of 1 gallon per person per day for as many days as possible. Once you have your food and water, think about the gear you would need to help make the most of that. Do you have a can opener? Do you have an extra one in case it breaks? And make sure that you buy a top quality one. Don't just get any old can opener that might not even work well. If you have your supply of water, then you're going to need a way to filter any more water, or if the water coming into your home is contaminated. Make sure you get something that is like a life straw, not just something like a Brita, which is just designed for flavor enhancement and not for purification. Stock up on simple garden seeds, and if you use up the food you have, you still have a way to have some sustainable food. Even if you just plant a pot on your windowsill, or in your garden, you can have some food going forward and be responsible for yourself. Other items to consider: a flashlight. Have more than one. Every person in your family should have their own, and a few extras. Then you want to make sure you have the batteries that go with your flashlights. Have several extra sets. You don't want them to burn out at a critical moment when you need that guiding light. Have a way to communicate. Something as simple as a wind-up radio. You have an emergency source of information. You might want to even consider some kind of a battery-operated transistor radio. If you're relying on the solar panel on an Eaton Scorpion or the wind-up capability, you may find that you don't have the sun when you need it, or you just don't have the strength to continue to wind it up so that you can get access to the news that you want. Get a basic first aid kit and then fill it in with all of the extra items you think your family might want. Stock up on over-the-counter medications, have the ointments and creams that you want, extra Band-Aids, gauze, any kind of medication you take. Have a supply of your prescriptions, especially if they're life-saving. You don't want to be without them for a day or two, and you may even want to carry a copy of your prescription so that in a real emergency you could go to, say, a different pharmacy if yours is not available, and the pharmacist can try their best to help you gather the medicines that you need. The next area to think about is sanitation. Of course, we know we need toilet paper, but you also need plastic bags for trash. You need toothbrushes, toothpaste, all of the things that you use to clean yourself and take care of your body and your hair and your surroundings. So have a way not only to use the bathroom if you need to, but then a way that you can bag up trash and use toilet paper so that you can put those things out safely away from where you are sheltering. Perhaps you want to have some matches and candles, an emergency stove. Those are great ideas. If you get a butane or a propane stove, make sure that you have the fuel that goes with it. If you need matches to go with your candles, have some matches and lighters. Then think about if you really had to leave, you need copies of your identification. You want Xerox copies of the most important documents, such as your insurance information, your contact information, anything that is your medical card, your identification, such as even your passports. Have a hard copy of the list of people you would want to get a hold of, their phone numbers, their email addresses, their home address, so that you can contact the most important people in an emergency. And it wouldn't just be family members, it might be your neighbors, it might be your work, your children's school, your daycare workers. There are categories that only you know who would you really need to get a hold of if, say, for 2 weeks you couldn't use your cell phone and you had to rely on other information. Have extra sets of warm clothes, including hats and gloves. If you lose your power, you can put more layers on even in your home. And if you need to leave your home, it's a great idea to always take a jacket, something with you, because when the sun goes down, it gets cold almost everywhere at some parts of the year. Have even a little poncho for a raincoat or something like that. Have things so that no matter the weather and wherever you are, you can take care of yourself. Why might you want to whistle? What if you're in an earthquake and part of your house should collapse and you can't escape? You could signal with a whistle so someone could locate you. I made a video about how to use a whistle for emergencies, and I'll put a link to that video in case you're interested. You also want to think about the special members of your family, your pets, your infants, the elderly, the infirm, anyone who needs special medication, special looking after. Think about the vulnerable people and pets, and make sure you have supplies and a plan for that as well. We don't want our most vulnerable family members or those we care about to not be cared for because we forgot their most important things. I've learned through several emergencies that I've been through that having cash on hand can be a lifesaver. It gives you the flexibility, even in a power outage, that you could buy some food, you could buy some gas. We even paid for a hotel room when there was a huge power outage and you couldn't use a credit card. So having cash, and make sure you have some small bills for small items, gives you flexibility in uncertain times. Have an up-to-date map of your area in your car, because if you need to take an alternate route even to get home from work, make sure that you are aware of different streets and different ways. And should you need to evacuate your area, the main arteries are going to be clogged with traffic. You can check your map for alternate routes around. Don't just rely on GPS, and don't rely on electronics for the biggest emergency situations. They can be clogged, they can be not working, and sometimes the GPS is inaccurate, especially in remote areas. So you want to have a paper map, and you also want to have some knowledge of different ways to get from A to B, places that you would normally go. Even on occasion, take an alternate route to places you normally go so that you have ideas in your head of other ways, other solutions, and you help yourself remember that there are choices. And when you have a plan and you have choices, you don't panic in emergency situations. You might become a little concerned, but your brain can start thinking back of all the different things that you know how to do. A lot of us question, what do we need? How can we prepare? And just do a little at a time. Every day, do a little more. Every time you have a little bit of cash, buy a few more supplies. And then as you continue to get into the prepping lifestyle, you'll find that you are able to face the challenges that come to all of us, which allows you to make the best of every single day. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.